Yeah. Sitaram. Swagatam and welcome to another episode of the Hindu Perspective on IETV. This is a special program sanctioned by the Board of Swaha. And today, before we move into a very important topic, one that's most relevant, we'd like to begin with prayer. I ask that you bow your heads, if possible, but we contemplate upon that Divine Father, Gajanan Swami, and Om Ganganapati Namaha. ॐ यं ब्रह्म वेदान्तविदो वदन्ति परं प्रधानं पुरुषं तथान्ये विश्वोगते कारम् ईश्वरं वा तस्मै नमो विघ्नविनाशनाय ॐ श्रीविघ्नेश्वराय नमः ॐ गंगणपते नमः बोलिए श्री गजानन स्वामी की जय Okay, so yeah, I'm just hearing some feedback.
All right. So, Panishwar, thank you for introducing the program. And once again, we welcome our viewers to the Hindu Perspective, where we share relevant and current information for the purpose of giving that opportunity for us to ventilate issues, to bring some elucidation to some of the misunderstanding, misconception that may exist as it relates to current issues and Hinduism, of course. And as you know, part of the structure of the program, we always ensure that whatever information is shared, it is grounded in our scriptures so that we have our senior Pandit Gyandev, who would normally draw from the scriptures. They have Pandit Isha also. And whatever discussions that are taking place, normally a topic that may be social, we always look for that grounding from our scriptures so that they substantiated. Hence, the name of the program is the Hindu Perspective. As we go through the program, as usual, we invite you to call in and to send your messages, and you can call at 223-1601, 223-1601, or you can WhatsApp your messages at 470-8103. And has been the case over the last few weeks, we have tried our best to summarize the messages because there are so many messages. But if you feel that you'd like to call and make a contribution, of course, you're allowed to do that, to call, make a contribution in a very succinct way, and let us know what are your thoughts. Over the last 2 weeks, we spoke about education. We spoke about the return to face-to-face classes and the implications that we had for classes. And then for the second week, which was the last week, we went a little deeper into the issue of access, etc. We looked at the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, and we looked at the issue of mandatory vaccination. This week, we are going to look at another very important issue, as indicated by Pandit Ishwar. And we are going to look at the issue of rights and contribution of women, as well as the role of women. So for the sake of information, on March 8, 2022, will be International Women's Day. This is a day that I know that many would celebrate and be aware of. And as Hindus and a Hindu perspective, there are many information that we can share. And of course, that will be discussed along the way. So that International Women's Day will be celebrated on March 8, 2022. And for this year, the theme of International Women's Day is Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. So that is going to be part of the discussion. And we looked at these different international bodies, and we can tie International Women's Day when we look at the rights of women, equality, etc., to some of the articles in the UN Declaration of Human Rights. And I'll just look at the first one. And I know that we can all, download these and have it so that I can make reference to it. But the first one says very simply, that all human beings, and the term is not qualified, human beings meaning any, person, regardless of gender, diversity, and all of that, so that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. And it is in light of such articles and declarations like these that we celebrate occasions like Women's Day, Children's Day, and we look at the groups that have traditionally been marginalized. And so this is going to be the topic of this discussion for today. We look at the social issues, and of course, we're going to look at the Hindu perspective on these. So at this point in time, I'll pass over to Pandit Gyandev to make his contribution, and then of course to Pandit Ishwar, who and will begin the discussion, and of course we'll take it from there. Pandit Gyandev.
Thank you, Pandit Jairat. Now, the topic is one which I'll take references from scripture. I'll start one from which is called the Janamanas. You have Tulsi Manas, which you all know, who by Tulsi Das. The Janamanas is that which is taken from the experiences of mankind. Now it says, Nari Ninda Mat Karo, Nari Sukh Ki Khan, Nari se paida hue Ram Krishna Hanuman. अर्थात नारी बड़े बड़े महापुरुषों की जन्मदायिनी है. नारी को कोख से ही भगवान श्री राम जी, कृष्ण जी और हनुमान जी अवतारित हुए हैं. That is, women must be respected. Even when avatar came, Sri Ram, Krishna, Hanuman, they had a mother. And that my mind go back to right now present situation, where the situation pariah fuel, whatever happened, we'll know about it eventually. Wives and mothers are crying, they are weeping and wailing for their loved ones. And the United Nations, as Jaidev just rightly mentioned, that should not be happening. So my topic about that will come later on. United Nations and what they say and what actually happens on earth. Like right now in Ukraine, United Nations has problems, actually no problems with a country being invaded. All it is called talk and talk and talk and talk. But are people being looked after? And the women and children, what is happening? It is heart-rending to see women and children being put on trains and sent away from their husbands and brothers and sisters, and wives and so on. The wives and the children are sent away. Families are broken up because of this war. What is being done? This is what the scripture says. This is not what the United Nations want, but what are they doing? We have to analyze and see. This is the world. One thing is what the United Nations says, what scripture says, and what obtains, and how can this be changed? We'll delve into that discussion eventually. Before I go on, I just want to quote one other scripture about the importance of women. Now, it's good to see that it's taking women away from the war and children, but that should happen in the first place. So what Krishna Bhagavan says about women, he says, chapter 1, verse 40, कुल के नाश के संतान कुल धर्म नष्ट हो जाते हैं. धर्म के नाश हो जाने पर संपूर्ण कुल में पाप ही बहुत फैल जाती है. That is what happened when age-long family traditions disappear. With destruction of family traditions, what happened? Virtues take hold, vice take hold. और कृष्ण भगवान कहते हैं पाप के अधिक बढ़ जाने से कुल की स्त्रियां उत्पन्न दूषित हो जाती है. And this leads to the destruction of women when vices and when right thing is not being done. So when women are thrown away from their husband, when women are taken away from their family, what do they do? What happens? People, human beings, as Rajat rightly said, they're human beings, they have emotions. And what happens? Women get corrupted. So the society must look at women beautifully. I will get into that later on. So as we begin the introduction, is that what the scripture says, what United Nations says, and what actually happens, and how can we reconcile both to make sure that really and truly people, women are looked after. Because women, according to Hinduism, they are called Dharam Dhuri, the wheel of Dharma. Without women, the world can go on. I may add, this is a medical point. If any doctor listen, they can call in and they can do a WhatsApp and tell me I'm wrong. I'm 100% correct. That each person was a woman. When fertilization takes place, that zygote changes to a woman, And then because of karma, they call it, science call it XY chromosomes, we call it karma. You either change to male or you remain a female. So each person, how important Hinduism is. Where female, biologically speaking, is the beginning of all life. And that comes in Devi Katha as you go on. So a personal Ishwar, we will continue discussion on this topic. Panditji.
I thank you, Pandit Gyandev ji. And that reference makes me smile. I recall Pandit Gyandev mentioned that on a number of occasions, and our children in school in particular, would question, where does that come from? And I remind our viewers, those who have been looking on for the last couple of weeks, that everything that we are saying, right, is premised or grounded upon certain statements, in particular chapter 16 of Bhagavad Gita, where we say, let the scriptures be the authority in determining what should be done and what should not be done. And when we think about the role of women and gender equality, I reflect upon who is a woman, what does a woman symbolize? And to me, a woman, we know she's Devi. The female is a symbol of life on this world, in this world. Upon this earth, rather, women are the symbol of life. They can be both, extremely powerful, soft, kind-hearted, compassionate at times, but they represent so many things. But even though we may say, yes, they symbolize life and they are multifaceted in their nature, gender equality is something extremely important and should be of greatest importance at this time. Pandit Gyandev mentioned briefly about the war in Ukraine. And just yesterday, looking at the news, this was BBC News, I saw, not advertising for anyone other than IETV, but the reality is on that channel, they showed a few women, a group of women. They showed hundreds of people lining up to enroll in the army, basically as volunteers, if they would be needed, or the need would arise for these individuals to have to go to war. And they showed one banker, a lady who's a banker. She says she has never fired a gun before, but she sees the defense of her country and her people as being her foremost duty, more than banking, more than cooking at home and doing anything else. The defense of her country was her foremost duty at this time. And that's very instructive in the way that our women folk think. And, in terms of gender equality, it's just a point I wanted to make also. Also, saying that we are grounded in scriptures, there are two things I instantly thought about when we speak about women and the strength of women. And very quickly, I will give these illustrations from Ayodhya Kand. Lakshman wanted to go with Sri Ram and Sita Mata into the forest. And Sri Ram said, no, you cannot go until you have done something. Magahu vida matu sanajai avahu begi chalahu banabhai. Go and ask leave of your mother first. And only if she gives you permission, then you can go with me. And then when he went to the mother, Lakshman, Jai Janani Paganayo Mata, Manu Raghunandan Janaki Satha. He went to Sumitra Mata, placed his head, Lakshman placed his head on the feet of the mother, showing reverence as we are taught to do growing up. Show reverence for our mother, grandmother, or Guru Mai also. But Tulsidas Ji writes that in doing so, while his head was on the feet of the mother, his mind was fixed on the form of Sri Ram and Sita Mata. What is the message? Who is a mother? Who is a woman? What is most important? Listeners, viewers, this is how exalted mothers are to be. This is how we should look at our mother and look at the females in society. We'll come back as we move on. At this time, we need to take a break as necessary, and we will return with Pandit Jaidat, who will continue. Sitaram.
Hi everyone, welcome to Prime Time with Surendra on IETV, where we bring to you interviews with some of the biggest music icons in our local entertainment industry on Fridays at 9 p.m. I am your host, Surendra Ramuta. Stay tuned and keep it locked on IETV, #1 station for news and entertainment.
Prime time with Surendra, prime time with Surendra, prime time with Surendra, prime time.
Welcome to Burning Issues on IETV. Burning Issues is a contemporary show that is going to be dealing with current affairs. While we talk about the pandemic, while we talk about the issues of health, crime, be it public utilities, be it taxation, be it the economy, how we diversify. It is now for us to talk about these issues, and this we will be talking with in the show for the next few weeks on IETV with Dr. Manjrika Bahal and I, Vishnu Raghunath. We talk burning issues.
Thank you, Pandit Gyandev and Pandit Ishwar, for your initial contribution. And as you will see, the discussion obviously is going in the way of Hindu perspective, and there are so many topics that have been broached. And of course, we're going to go into a little more depth into each of these topics. And the structure of the program, of course, is that we are looking at the perspectives and the discussion from a social point of view. For SWAHA is not only an organization that is religious in its contribution, but also in terms of social contribution and development of community and development of persons and people. And therefore, we look at all of the various perspectives so that as we go further and further into the discussion, I just want to focus a little bit and just ask a view of the panelists on what is a theme for this year's International Women's Day. And was mentioned that the theme is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. And we spoke about the religious and spiritual aspect of gender equality and what our scriptures say about it. But in terms of how does gender equality help us in our sustainability as a country, as a region, and of course across the world? For we know that with everything that is taking place globally, that economic sustainability, climate, planet sustainability, there are so many different types of sustainability. But of course, when we talk about sustainability, we talk about economic sustainability. And how does gender equality help with sustainability into the present, now, and of course into the future? And I'll pass over to our esteemed panelists to give their views on this. And of course, again, once again, we invite those who may want to make their contribution. You can call at 223-1601, 470-8103. So I'll pass over to any of the panelists who wish to make their contribution at this time. Pandit Ishwar?
Right, sure. Sitaram again, viewers. So when we think of gender equality, there are a number of things that come to mind. And I wanted to look at our current situation. Think of the world situation right now and some of the most powerful individuals that you see. There's a extremely powerful leader. That's Angela Merkel, who is the head of Germany, right? The leader of Germany. You see another very powerful individual, Prime Minister of New Zealand. You have the Queen, who would have been there in excess of 60 years leading United Kingdom. So you see powerful women right in the Caribbean. There's the Prime Minister of Barbados, even our own president, and we would have had not so long ago our first female Prime Minister also in Trinidad and Tobago. So women are taking over and are taking control. Laws have changed to allow them into the workplace, making the work environment a lot more comfortable for them. And indeed, in terms of education, we see it, as a principal, I could tell you, and we all know it, the women outperform, or the girls outperform the boys. We see it each and every year. And it is something that we are starting to worry what is happening to the boys in our country, what is happening to the males in society. But gender equality is of extreme importance, and why I think we have powerful leaders. They got there through sheer hard work and of course through the support of many others, but working hard towards ensuring a greater degree of gender equality or equity in our nation, in our world is important. Some of the things that come to mind for me, job segregation, where you would have had women barred from certain jobs. We are seeing, by and large, this is not the case anymore. Discrimination. Women still are fighting against discrimination in certain sectors, right? This is something we need to work on. There's also undervaluation, or undervaluation rather, we could look at it like that, of women's work. They work hard, but yet still their work is not appreciated in the same way that a man's work would be appreciated. We could talk about all the gender stereotypes that exist. Then there's harassment that still exists in the world of work, the workplace. Women are being harassed, chastised, ridiculed for doing what they know to do, what they have been educated to do, and they are being paid to do, but they are harassed by others. And still at the same time, sometimes you hear the problem of an uneven distribution or in terms of responsibilities or with respect to the pay that they receive. So the remuneration that they get may not be, consistent with the same type of work performed by men. Now, by and large, a lot of these have been addressed, but I'm saying some of these things, discrimination in the workplace, segregation, or barring women from certain careers and jobs, and gender-based violence and harassment in the world of work and in society in particular, are some of the areas that we still have to work hard to ensure that any gap, gender gap that exists is closed as soon as possible if we really want to advance as a society, as a people. Right? I would like to bring in Pandit Gyandev, who I know has a wealth of knowledge to share. Panditji?
Thank you, Panajishwar. As we continue the discussion on gender equality, what Panajishwar just said and Panajay that we have to examine what does equality mean. Sometimes people don't understand the term equality. Equality doesn't mean the same height for men and women because they're different physically, spiritually, biologically. So there are differences. So what equality really means, and it comes down to the way we call it economic system. We'll deal with that first. So my mind goes back to like the USA, the women's football team were eventually given equal pay to the men. They were paid less before. They were compensated for being paid less. And now they're given the same pay as men. So that you find in every area, whether it's government service or private service, when you're hiring based on competence, not whether you're a man or woman. That I don't think that happens. If it happens, it's not supposed to be happening. Because we have the Equal Opportunities Commission in place to look after those things for women who have been discriminated against. So on the economic front, the social front, equality there is, they can be, they have to be. Now let's see spiritually. My mind go back to Ramayana. And ties in what was going right now in Ukraine and Russia. When Sri Ram wanted to rule other kingdoms, he didn't want to fight them. He had what we call Ashwamedh Yagya. And through that yagya, he had to get his wife to sit next to him. And she was in exile. Now that's a story you could read in your mind or ask your parents about it. What was done to ensure that he can continue? What he did, he released a horse. And that horse went all over the place. And each king will accept Sri Ram as ruler or reject. If you reject, then you have to face the army of Sri Ram. So even in the spiritual field, in terms of doing puja and yagya, it's always said that the woman must be there. And it's one misconception over years have been perpetuated. I want to correct that today. I want to mention it clearly. It is a misconception. It says the rightful place of a woman is the left side of a man. That is wrong. Now let me put it in perspective. The rightful place of a woman is the left side of a man. Now in that, who is the center of attention there? They take the man, the central point, and put the woman next to him. Hinduism doesn't say that. Hinduism says the rightful place of a man is on the right side of the woman. They come the same thing. A woman is sitting there, on the left side is the husband. A man is sitting on his right side is the wife. So the focus point is woman, not man. So what they always say is that the rightful place of a woman, the left side of the husband, putting the husband is central point. They don't say no. The central point is woman, the Hindu says. And when a woman sits, the husband sits on her right side. So right is always flown with. The right side of the woman is where the man has to be. And that goes back last time we celebrated Shivratri. And one of the important forms of Bhagwan Shankar, I'm sure everybody heard the Katha will hear, Junior Swaha's programs you'll hear, Ardhangi. What is the rightful place of woman? According to Bhagwan Shankar, Ardhangi means half man, half woman. In a marriage, is called the half. Now, I don't know where this thing comes from. People say the better half. He had a better half. It's a half and a half, right? So Ardhangi means half and half. Half and half make the whole. So equality in spirituality is always there. So in terms of equality, spirituality, socially, economically, it must be there, according to our scripture in Hinduism. Panditji.
So thank you very much, Pandit. And again, some great insights from our panelists. And I mean, if I can put in my own perspective also. And again, we are speaking about equality, and we looked at this in detail last week programs. It was a little different in that term. We looked at equality in terms of education, and we looked at equality and inequality from a different perspective. We look at from a socio-economic perspective, and the ability of students to access devices, increasing cost of living, and how those things would have affected equality, and of course, fairness and all of those things. And again, we are seeing where these topics are coming up. And as Pandit Gandhi rightly mentioned, that the intent is there. All of these global organizations, they have made these declarations, they are written on paper, but enforcement and how it is applied in different contexts and the experience of everyone is going to be different. Third world countries or developing nations, like the Caribbean, for example, compared to first world nations, the experiences are, of course, very, very differently. Now, we are speaking about the theme for International Women's Day, and we are saying that gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. And how is it that, what can we make out of that? And when we look at the statistics, that in terms of the world's population, it is pretty much 50-50. Not exact, but the differences are not enough to be considered significant. And if women are not participants in that workforce, then how can there be economic sustainability? That economic sustainability is based on many factors, including things like, food sustainability and all of those things, entrepreneurship, leadership, all of these are part of what builds a country, builds an economy. And if you're looking at sustainability from an economic point of view, then we need full participation in the workforce. And this type of, ideologies of equality has to be ingrained and entrenched in our children at a very young age, so that when they are participants, whether it be in school or in the workforce, they understand these ideologies and what is considered right, what is considered fair, equal, equitable, and most importantly, what is considered justice. So that we look at some of these sustainable development goals. And in particular, the sustainable development goals, we look at goal 5 to achieve gender equality, which is what we are looking at. Goal 8, which is to promote full and productive employment and decent work for all. And I think that it comes back to that and it ties in perfectly to what Pandit Ishwar is speaking about. Yes, women are participating more in the workforce, but is it that they are equitable compensation and payment? And as Pandit Gandhi said, equal is not equitable. If someone works and gains a PhD, a man who earns a PhD, a female doesn't attend school, of course, if you're in the field of education, then you're not going to get equal pay, but you're going to get equitable pay. You should be paid fairly for the work that is done. And who has to determine what is equitable? That is not for us to determine. There are many persons who are more qualified than us. But yes, equitable more than what we call equal. So things has to be equitable in terms of its distribution. But the point remains that if women are performing the same function as men, and in performing that function, they are not able to get the same compensation and recognition, then they're going to be demotivated. And if they are demotivated, they are not going to participate, and therefore we are going to have less persons in that workforce. And if that happens, of course, that affects sustainability. So that we will take this discussion further, but it is time for us to take a break, and we will see you back in a few minutes.
Every day, normal people like you and I have questions about the law and a desire to understand simply that which binds us, guides our conduct and our journey throughout our lives. From as simple as buying a soft drink, for you the consumer there are laws, and for the business person there are also company laws. Therefore, as aptly named, you are the law represents you. I am Umesh Prasad, criminal law defense attorney, and I invite you to tune in every week. The mission is simplifying the law, and the purpose is providing education on the relationship between you and the law and on your legal rights. An informed and empowered citizenry is key because you are the law.
Have you heard of the Beautylicious Caravan? Come partner with us at IETV. We are looking for the professionals in TNT. Are you a makeup artist, hairstylist, nail tech, a barber, or a person who sells all the professional products? We are here to share your knowledge, your skills, and do demos with you. Come on, partner on with us at IETV. Contact me at 756-1764 or ani.ramsamuj@gmail.com. See you soon at your location.
So welcome back, viewers. And we are discussing the topic, the theme for International Women's Day, which will be celebrated on March 8, 2022. And we are saying that the theme is gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow. And we look at a different perspective and different issues. And the last issue that we spoke about was that idea of, having greater participation in the workforce. When there's greater participation, of course, there's more productivity. And greater productivity, that augurs well, for sustainability in the world. But that could only happen if there's motivation. And every single one of us will understand that if we are not motivated to work, then, our productivity becomes low. We may decide that we are going to leave the workforce. So we all need to be motivated. And what motivates us is a sense of fairness, a sense of appreciation. And so International Women's Day is to ensure that we recognize the need for that. And of course, in addition to that, to look at the roles and to celebrate the contribution that women have made to the development and the state that the world is in today. And as we speak, again, I'll just make reference again Article 1 of the UN Human's Declaration. The UN's Declaration on Human Rights, which says that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. And, all of the pundits would have shared their perspective in terms of scriptural messages. And I just want to leave one also. And in Uttarakhand, Sri Ram says, Bhare Bhag Manush Tanupava. That is human body. It is the greatest gift that we can receive. And the statement that is made by that Lord is one that is unqualified, meaning that there was no qualification. It was not said that the male form is greater. It didn't say the female form is greater. It just says that the human form. And just by virtue, from our scriptures, from a Hindu perspective, by virtue of being given this human body, being born into this world with all of the different sheets of the body and, all of the different aspects that make us who we are, just by virtue of that, we are all equal. And we have been given this powerful, wonderful gift by that Lord, whether it be male or female. I mean, the characteristics are different, as Panditji said, but in terms of ability, that we all share that. And I know that we do have some questions that have been posted us on WhatsApp mainly. And I know that Pandit Ishwar has one or two, and he will share. And then, I have some also, and we'll share those questions. So at this point, at this segment, for the last half an hour, we will give our viewers the opportunity to share, your thoughts, your views. You can call in at 223-1601 or send your messages at 470-8103. Panditji, we can start off with you with whatever questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Pandit Jairat. So I have a couple questions here. The first one asks for us to comment on the current situation in Trinidad regarding literacy of women. And I suppose they would be targeting girls, really. I did mention this a little bit, but I'll elaborate a little further. Worldwide, it is said that the current adult literacy rate is around 83%. Male literacy is 88%, and female literacy rate is 79%. So that's almost well, it's 9 point something percent actually. Almost 10% is the disparity or that divide between male and female literacy. However, in Trinidad and Tobago, and the exact figure eludes me, but I can tell you for a fact now in our education system coming up, and you see the figures from SEA, generally there's higher performance. The girls' composite score is generally higher on average than that of the boys. We see it all the time. So our Hindu College, which I must mention, of course, a co-educational denominational institution run by the Swaha board, at our school, we have also seen it where the majority of top performers are the girls. So we see the flip side of what is happening in certain other, developed or so-called third world countries. And Trinidad certainly is by no means really to be considered just a third world country. We have gone way beyond in terms of our development, certainly where education is concerned. So our girls in particular and women in general are achieving the highest, in terms of education, first degree, master's, PhD, and so on. But there still remains that disparity. And this is something that, again, when we talk about gender equality, and I understand why United Nations will have this on the front burner as their the goal, gender equality for sustainable tomorrow. We would have all seen the case of that young teenager, Malala, right? The Pakistani girl who simply wanted to go to school, who wanted to learn, who wanted a further education, and was prevented from doing so, and was actually shot, badly injured, for her desire to simply get an education. Education is the great unifier or equalizer in this world today, and it's very important that we do everything that we can to ensure that our girls or women have an equal opportunity for an education. And I'm saying, as far as it goes, as Trinidad and our education system is, and Panagande, I'm sure would agree with me, girls have more than have equal opportunity at present. We can't speak for other countries, but certainly that is the way it is in our country right now. And there's another one, which is quite interesting. We're talking about gender equality or gender equity. Gender equality, rather, today for a sustainable tomorrow. And the person is asking about gender equality in terms of men also. That it has gotten, so the comment is, it has gotten to the stage where men are not achieving their full potential because the women have surpassed them. And men are actually being ostracized, and it is becoming a highly sensitive topic where our men, and I can say it, and I want to agree with this individual, that we are seeing it also, and I'm not speaking from my school only, but many of our boys are underachieving. And they are underachieving because the girls are not overachieving, but they are achieving more and more, higher and higher, closer to their full potential. But the boys are now falling by the wayside. So that, Panajai, Panagande, is going to be a big concern in the near future. When we talk about gender equity, it may flip all that we would have been talking about earlier in the program about women in terms of our boys. So I thank that, not caller, but that texter for sending this wonderful info here, or another perspective. And quickly, Panajai, Panagande, they also raise the question of those who are gender neutral. And I would prefer that we defer that for another program. That is taking us into a whole other realm of discussion here on the Hindu perspective that we will leave for another program. I want to bring in Panagande once again.
Thank you, Panajai. I think Panajai has some text messages also, Panajai. So I prefer he go through those text messages and we'll go into the discussion afterwards. Panajai.
Sure, Pandit. And just to comment also on what Pandit Ishwar have raised in terms of equality. Yes, we know that by law, so for example, women can go to school equally as men, females and females, so that the law is there. But again, we always face the issue of enforcement. I want to look at a different context, so that we have so many cases. Panditji brought up the issue of domestic violence. And yes, there is violence against men, and studies have been done, theses have been done on that. But the reality is that the statistics will show that violence against women remains the greatest form of domestic violence, and how debilitating that becomes to an entire family, not just to the female, but also to the children of that home and the extended members, the parents and all of that. So yes, we are saying that by law, there's equality, but the context, when you introduce that and the realities of our society, you look at domestic violence, you look at issues such as, human trafficking and human slavery. And when you look at some of the statistics, that more than 75% of persons that are victims of human trafficking are women, and the rest are made up of mainly children. And if a country like Trinidad and Tobago, we say that we are small on the map, but we are a source of human trafficking, we are a destination, and we are a transit point. And when you put all of that together, we know the issue of, the unfortunate issue of Andrea Barrett and all of those individuals, of women who have taken their place in society, who have gotten education, but yet, in spite of all of that, they have become victims. So yes, Panditji, I agree, and we know that, there is equality, and by law, there is equality. But when you look at the entire context, I mean, how free are our women? How equal is really the treatment in society when there's that level of fear for life and all of those things? So I'm just bringing up these things as further discussions and things that we need to take into consideration also. We have some other questions, the issue of, gender equality, as Panditji said, we'll dedicate a whole program to that. But we have some issues here, and Panditji, I think Pandit Panditishwar, these are things that will make us take a hard look at ourselves and really look at the Hindu perspective on some of these things. So that in summary, some questions are being asked here, and it all relates to the Hindu marriage, what they call the Vivaha Sanskar. So, we are saying that there's equality and there's equity. And the question that's being asked is that when we look at a Hindu wedding, the wedding says that, there's Kanyadan, there's a giving away of a child. And I know that the modern day Hindu, they have their own perspective on that. And the reality is that we are dealing with a modern day Hindu, a Hindu that has a thought that is different from you and I. That is one part of it. When you read the vows, we say that, for the male vows or what the female is asking is different from what the male is asking. So immediately there, we see there's no equality, doesn't mean there's no equity, because what is being asked for from the male, what is being asked for from the female, the bride and groom, is not the same thing. There are differences. And the question really focuses on that part of the vow that says that, you are supposed to be timely in your domestic responsibility as not to cause any inconvenience to me. This is what the Dulaha is asking for. And the question that is really being asked or alluded to is that when you have these things and you have these types of rules in the religion and the practice, doesn't that put, females in a certain box and restrict them, even psychologically, to say that your place is in the kitchen? So it's a question, I think personally it's a very good question to ask. So could and I know we have to take a break, so it'll give the pundits a chance to think about the answers. And after we come back from a break, then we'll pass over to both pundits to give their views on that contribution by our viewer.
We all want to save money without compromising on the best quality insurance coverage. If you are renewing your motor or homeowner insurances soon, then call us at Ekta Consultants. With over 27 years in the insurance industry, we can offer you significant savings on your insurance premiums. As agent for Guardian Group, we assure you the best quality coverage at a very competitive price. Email us at ektagroupmail@gmail.com.
Hey everyone, I'm Ricky Kandu.
And I am Akshay Kandu.
Join us on IETV for a brand new talent show,
where we invite you to showcase your talent in the form of song, music, dance, skits,
comedy and even magic.
WhatsApp us at 383-0655.
And you can be featured on IETV's talent show on the #1 TV station
where culture is alive.
we thank our viewers, our listeners for sending those questions. And I want to just continue what Panjal mentioned about the Marriage Act on Kanyadan. Kanyadan is just simply the giving away of the bride. Kanya means bride and Dan means given away. And it is not specific to Hinduism. Every religion has this. Even if you can see, when a woman married, she takes the husband's name. So let's stop all that. You can't go out and say Kanyadan in Hinduism is bad. Because every religion practices it, giving away of the bride. And in every religion, in every culture, the woman takes the husband's name. It's a normal thing. And this is for inheritance purposes. Because if she doesn't take his name, she can't get his property, I suppose. There are a few other reasons also. But it comes back to the history. And if you know the history of indentation in Trinidad, more males were born to Trinidad and less females. And because of that, they had child marriages. And when they had child marriages, the Pandits adopted the suit, the ceremony suit only. Child marriage is not Hinduism. It was a social ill that came out of the indentation. In India, child marriage started when the invaders came. At least the invaders had that kind of respect, unlike invaders of today. You know the war going on. Invaders of those days had respect. If they saw a woman was married, they never interfered with her. So what Hindus did, they married children small, give them sindoor and give them Mangal Sutra. So invaders recognized these are married people, and we leave them alone. So even in those days, they had respect for married women. And when they married children small, it wasn't because of religion. It was because of circumstances, attacks to maintain the religion and the society. And so I wanted the organization to stop the forefront, I can remember. Pandishore, we have this out Panchayat. And he spoke against child marriage and raising the age of marriage for Hindu women. So I stood out at the forefront about that. You don't beat a married children at 8, 17, and 16, and 15, and 14. No. We spoke out against that. And this is where, you know, there's a beautiful saying in a bhajan, Jiske haath mein lathi, who has the power? They will carry the animal forward. They will control the animals. And not a literal animal here. But we're saying people with power, economic, social, political power dictates what happens. And this is the circumstance where child marriage came in Trinidad. And it's still going on. When you have the power, now take it physically. There are few women wrestlers now, yes. But generally speaking, men are more physically strong than women. So because of that, that is one of the problems which starts. And the question I want to ask, because we have to go on, time is limited, is how do we celebrate in a tangible way, right? Women's International Day on the 8th of this month. How do you celebrate it? And I will just mention one or two ways. One, we have started it, we have to continue it. Look and see where women are discriminated against in the legal system. Hinduism has removed that. And recently, there's also a big move to address the Hindu Marriage Act. At Kaima, we had done a thesis on that. Sent the government, but nothing was done. Because we are saying marriage is a union between man and woman equally. So how can we really celebrate this International Women's Day coming up? One, legally, look at it legally and see. We have the Equal Opportunities Act. Is that being instituted? Is that being practiced? Or is it just an act, a legislation put on books and put away? How applicable it is, how it is used. Let us look into that. Get our legal minds to look into it. Next thing, people ask, when a husband dies, Hinduism says the woman must kill herself. Or the woman will go in a corner and sit down. Hinduism doesn't say that. Hinduism never said that. As a matter of fact, check your mind. When Dasra died, what the three queens did? They lived on and they guided the children. They guided Sri Ram. They guided the kingdom. They didn't go and kill themselves. This thing was Sati came out also because of attacks on foreigners, where the Hindu women took it upon themselves. I'd rather die than let another man touch me. This is the Hindu tradition. I'd rather die than let another man touch me. This is how this Sati thing come up. And the additional to that is where the woman with powers, they call spontaneous combustion. they can raise the Agni, the fire in themselves, and burn themselves. If women today can do that, then go ahead. When husband die, raise the fire within you and burn yourself. That is, don't do it. Live life and continue. So these are some things we have to look at carefully. And also, to look to attack this thing in a gentle way is that we have to start with religion, with social or culture. And I'm not criticizing or condemning, but my scripture doesn't say that. Women can go scantily clad in the middle of the road and show everything and show I call it the bumper. That's not Hinduism. That's not respect. Then when you do that, people respect you either. Respect a two-way street. So women want respect, show respect. Women want to be treated differently, behave as a child of God, as a divine form. So I'll stop there and pass on to Panjeshwar, who have much more to say concerning these things. Panaji.
Thanks, Pandit Gyandev, and I really want to agree 100% with some of the statements of Pandit Gyandev in addressing the concerns and the questions of that caller or that whoever sent in the messages WhatsApp to Pandit Jaidat. On the point of Kanyadan, I want to mention that it is not so much that we are giving away or the father is giving away the bride. Look at it in terms of, it was mentioned, the man traditionally, the father would have been the protector, so to speak, quote unquote, of the daughter. At this time, it is just a symbolic giving away. And these are things that we have to look at and be very careful. We can't be too sensitive because, as Panditji said, it is prevalent in many different types of marriages, other religions also. So the father is saying to the husband, to his son-in-law, that you are now to be the protector. Yes, I will forever remain the father of this wonderful child, but you are to be the protector of my daughter as I hand her in marriage to you. And we can look at it, but I'm saying do not be swayed by emotion and too sensitive without understanding the deeper significance of it. And this itself will require 1 or 2 programs, I think, to delve deeper, right, Pandit Jaidat, Pandit Gyandev? And one thing, the point was made about the vows to Pandit Jaidat. This is something, this is something I really want to say that as Pandits, we need to get together, not just, our Swaha Pandits or Sanatanist Pandits in our country, and look at revising the vows, these official vows, which again, would not have been official. They are not necessarily taken from the scriptures directly. They would have been adapted, as Pandit Gyandev mentioned, based on Deshkal, time, place, and circumstance here in our country, in this part of the world. But we need to revise them because definitely, I want to agree with that person who sent in the question that it is not relevant, not 100% relevant anymore. Certain changes need to be made, and they will be made in time to come. And this is the whole reason for the Hindu perspective, to look at these changes, to precipitate change. This is part of the program also. So I want to thank those individuals sending in wonderful questions for us to consider. I hand over Pandit Jaidat to share his final comments.
Thank you, both Pandits. And we are we're almost at the end of our program, so we start wrapping up. And definitely those are good perspective. And I think that just, to summarize, that whatever happened and what we see today as practices in our religion, and again, it comes back to what Swaha stands for, which is enlightened ritualism. And this is a perfect example of the process of our program and how do we elucidate all of these issues. We are saying that we are guided by our scriptures, and we have Pandit Gyandev, who is quite qualified in many different scriptures, and he has shared perspectives that I'm sure that many of our viewers have not heard. I know myself, I learn a lot by being part of this program also, so that the idea is that we share this information from our scriptures so that whatever we accept as belief, we find that grounded in our scriptures, and we're not guided by, social issues that may have been relevant at a point in time, but not relevant again in today. So we cannot discount what has happened in the past. We understand the idea of child marriage, that's a reality. Even when we came to Trinidad and Tobago as indentured laborers, that was part of it. And there's nothing to justify. And I always say that to persons who say that Hindus believe in that. I always say to them that's a social practice at a point in time. If there's child marriage now, of course, that is illegal. It's against the law. It cannot happen. It happened at a point in time when it was not law, but it was necessary for survival of the community. So that we have to take all of these things in context, which I think is the essence of what Pandit Gyandev and Pandit Ishwar was saying. So that we have had wonderful discussions, and as we close, we'd like to just share some announcements just to extend condolences to the passing of one of the members of our family. I know that they were very close to Pandit Gyandev also. Mr. Ken Puran from Gasperlo, he passed on, and Swaha, and all of our members, we extend condolences. He was one of the foundation members of one of our branches, and he have contributed tremendously to the growth of our organization. And we extend condolences to members of that family. And also, we have had Shivratri celebrations at the different centers. We have had a day of programming on ITV. And I'm sure that members feel very inspired, very, devotional. And so I will continue advertising all of the events that we have. And if you would like to know whether the upcoming events, what are taking place at the different centers, then you just call our office 674-7384, 674-7384, and you will be able to get all of the information. And as we talk about International Women's Day, we must take a minute to recognize the wonderful women of our own organization, SWAHA. And I think that all of the pundits will agree that within our centers and our temples, that the women are the drivers. I can tell you at the Swaha Gyan Jyoti Mandali that the females have been the leaders, the chairpersons for probably the last decade or so. We probably had 2 male in our 15 to 20 years of existence. Even more than that, we had 2 male chairpersons, and the women have been the one who have been carrying the mantle of leadership. We have our secretariat who do wonderful work in helping us to run the organization, and they are great leaders, persons who are intelligent, educated, they take initiatives. We have the Shankachars, Mataji, who also would have made a tremendous contribution towards the growth of organization, and so many other women in Swaha, those who have made contribution towards the development of our centers, who has given land, and all of these things. And Swaha take this opportunity that as we arrive to International Women's Day on March 8th, that we say thank you for the contribution you have made and to continue inspiring each and every one of us. We have about 1 or 2 minutes remaining maximum, so I'll just ask Pandit Gyandev, Pandit Ishwar to make your closing comments, and then we'll close off our program for today.
Panditji, I just want to mention that we have to be practicants of what we are doing. So next week, I'm hoping we'll have a woman on the panel for International Women's Day. Pandit Jaidat, Pandit Ishwar, I'm looking forward to that. I can be out, anybody can be out, or we can have one in. But we must have a woman for next week, for International Women's Day. Women of Swaha, call in and say on the program. Call in and let us know who you want to come in the program. Call Jaidat, call Ishwar, let us know. Thank you. Sitaram.
Pandit Ishwar?
Yes, Sitaram, I agree, Pandit Gyandev, a wonderful suggestion, and definitely, because I know we continue with this topic next week. Next week, Tuesday, is International Women's Day, so it's something to look forward to. So who will it be? The listeners and viewers, rather, tune in next week, Tuesday, to the special program on International Women's Day. Sitaram, everyone, and thank you for joining with us on The Hindu Perspective. Bole Shri Swaha Mata Ki Jai.
Jai.
Sitaram.